All right, great. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the UPWP committee meeting of the Boston MPO. We'll go ahead and get started. First, read the notice of non-discrimination, which reads that you are invited to participate in our transportation planning process, regardless of your race, national origin, including limited English proficiency, religion, creed, gender, ancestry, ethnicity, disability, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, veteran status, or background. The virtual meeting guidelines read that all participants will join the meeting with muted microphones. Please rename yourself to include your first name, last name, and affiliation. Participants may mute and unmute themselves, but always remain muted unless actively speaking. To participate in the discussion, please select the raise hand function by clicking either on the participants button at the bottom of the screen, and a window will pop up with a raise hand button at the bottom, or use the reactions button in the toolbar, and the chair will then call on participants. If you're on the phone, you can use *9 to raise your hand, and if you have technical difficulties, please contact Erin McGuire via the chat box by email at emaguire@ctps.org or by phone at 857-702-3681. And the accessibility statement reads that this meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Zoom products are compliant with exceptions with the following standards: Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1, Level AA standards, and revised Section 508 standards. If you require any additional accommodations in order to participate fully in the meeting, you may contact Erin McGuire of MPO staff at emaguire@ctps.org or by phone at 857-702-3681. We'll now move on to introductions. I will go first. I am Derek Cravat here with MassDOT's Office of Transportation and Planning. I'll just go ahead and call a roll. MAPC.
Good morning, Eric Barassa with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council.
Arlington. City of Boston. City of Framingham. Town of Medway. City of Newton.
Josh Ostroff in the planning department here for David Kosis, who must be on vacation with Framingham and Medway.
Great. Morning, Josh.
Morning.
Town of Norwood.
Good morning, Tom O'Rourke, Town of Norwood, Church Subregion.
Great, Tom. City of Somerville.
Good morning, Tom Bent, City of Somerville, in a court in representing Mayor Ballantyne.
Great. RTAC.
Leonard Diggins, Advisory Council here.
Great. And MBTA Advisory Board.
Good morning, Amira Patterson, representing the MBTA Advisory Board.
All right. So I think that's the full roll. So thanks, everyone. We'll move on to our next item, which is public comments. Is there anyone present that would like to make a public comment at this time? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to next item. We've got two meeting summaries to approve here. So we'll start with the July 13th meeting summary. I'll ask for a motion and second to approve the July 13th summary.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. I see Amira's hand.
I will second that motion.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Motion having been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on the July 13th summary? All right, seeing none, I'll go read the roll. Derek Cravat, yes. Eric Barassa.
Eric Barassa, yes.
Josh Ostroff.
Ostroff, yes.
Tom O'Rourke.
Yes.
Tom Bent.
Tom Bent, yes.
Leonard Diggins.
Diggins, yes.
And Amira Patterson.
Amira Patterson, yes.
All right, thanks everyone. Move on to the next summary, which is the summary of the July 27th meeting. I'll ask for a motion and second to approve that summary.
I'll make that motion too.
Great. Amira?
I will also second that motion.
Great, thank you. Motion having been made and seconded. Any comments or questions on the July 27th summary? All right, seeing none, I'll read the roll. Derek Vat, yes. Eric Barassa,
Eric Barassa, yes.
Josh Ostroff,
Ostroff, yes.
Tom O'Rourke,
Tom O'Rourke, yes.
Tom Bent,
Tom Bent, yes.
Leonard Diggins,
Diggins, yes.
and Amira Patterson.
Amira Patterson, yes.
All right, thanks everyone. Move on to our next item, which is the UPWP Amendment 2. I'll turn it over to Srilekha to walk through this one. And I know that we did meet about this a couple weeks ago. There was a change from the one that was presented. So before this goes to the MPO, we wanted to just bring this committee together once more just to go over what that change was and make sure everyone's good with that. So I appreciate everyone coming here today to to hear this update and turn it over to Srilekha to go through more of what that entails.
Thank you, Derek, for the intro, and thank you all for joining this meeting. I have a short presentation on Amendment 2, at the end of which I'll request a vote to either release for public comment or endorse with waiving the comment period. Before I begin, the reason I'm presenting this amendment again is because staff noticed some errors in the originally proposed budget changes and thus needed time to make those necessary corrections internally. So we really do appreciate your patience in having me come bring this forward again. Next slide, please, Aaron. This amendment follows a trend from past years of making budget adjustments in the third quarter of the fiscal year. As you all know, we prepare program budgets around March and April of the previous federal fiscal year, meaning we make predictions about how much money we will need to complete our anticipated work close to 6 months before we begin said work. Between when we make our initial predictions and when work is underway, many factors can affect how much money a program needs to complete its scoped work. In the example on the screen of the long-range transportation plan, some work was deferred from federal fiscal year 2022 into 2023. Additionally, the development of Destination 2050 necessitated the engagement of many more staff members than initially anticipated, coupled with issues of staff attrition. On the other hand, sometimes a program is not fully funded, but over the year, that work takes on a bigger role in the MPO's operations. An example of this is the Resiliency Program. When the initial budget for this program was developed around March of 2022, we did not have a full-time resiliency planner on staff. Since then, we have hired Judy Taylor to lead the Climate Resilience Program, as well as an intern to support an expanded scope for the program. Developing a more robust resiliency program necessitated an increase in the program budget from $44,000 to $108,000. For more specific information on which program budgets are changing, please refer to the memo and table posted on the meeting calendar for today. Next slide, please. This amendment has a net zero impact on the overall budget of the UPWP. I do want to note that just because a program's budget has been reduced does not mean that the planned work will not be completed. It most often indicates that that program does not need as much funding as initially projected to complete its anticipated work through the end of the year. Next slide, please. At this point, I'd like to request that this committee vote to waive the 21-day public comment period for this amendment and endorse it today. The reason I am asking you to waive the comment period is that the timing of collecting information on adjustments happens in the third quarter of the year, and we are presenting this at the beginning, close to the beginning of the fourth quarter, with the most accurate information we have in order for staff to complete their planned work. If you choose to waive the comment period today, and if the board chooses to do the same at tomorrow's meeting, staff can utilize their expanded budgets from this Friday to successfully complete their scoped work. So that's my presentation for now. I'm happy to answer any questions and I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thanks, Srilekha. Are there any questions on the amendment or the changes? Yeah, Leonard.
Yeah, it's a curiosity question. As you might recall, last time I didn't see the table before the meeting, so I would have asked this last time. So what was the new approach being to the budgeting that resulted in an underestimation for the amount of resources needed for the MPO general editing and MPO general graphics?
I think I'll ask Annette to answer that.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to raise my hand but couldn't do that in time. Yeah, so we used to budget editing and graphics within each project and program area. And so we've been trying to transition into just giving a general budget for editorial and graphics, because it's really hard to know when we're scoping the work what kind of editorial and graphic support will be needed. We don't know how long the documents will be. We don't know what they're actually going to be in the end. And so this way, by giving just a general budget, then we're not needing to do more amendments to switch back and forth between various projects and programs. And so we're just trying to fine tune exactly what that number is.
Well, thanks. As I said, it was a curiosity question. And the reason I often ask these questions is that, I find that the reasons that any organization or entity does what it does, can often be applied to other situations. So it's good to understand what happened here. I will say, staff does a great job with the documents. Not only are they like really clear and easy to read, but they're just really beautiful documents. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, in the private sector, they would put it into overhead, but we don't put it into overhead. It's part of our budget, and that's probably the difference there. We don't have overhead to cut into.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, Len. Tom?
Thank you. Just a question, with, a lot of where the money was made up for the increases, it's decreases in basically, I think it looks like personnel because of the inability to recruit additional people. Is that going to have any of those positions been filled yet? And is that going to impact, staff being able to get the work done?
Thank you. That's a good question. So we have filled some positions. We're still looking to fill others. We are shifting resources to make sure that we're getting the critical MPO work done.
Okay, thank you.
You? Sandy?
Thanks. So first, I think thank you to staff for presenting the changes in such a clear fashion. I apologize, I was not able to make the last meeting where you talked more about the amendment, but having reviewed it, I think I have two questions. First, just to renew something I think I said at a previous meeting, which is we'd love to get a briefing on how staff are making decisions within the different planning programs in terms of what analyses are going forward. At some point, and I know you guys are all stressed for time, so no hard feelings about it, but would love to see that at some point. And second, I think we're very happy to see the MPO investing in the resiliency program, and would love to know kind of more about how that's working, what the work program is, and how you are going about coordination and kind of deconflicting work and making sure that the work is kind of supplemental to or adding value to what other agencies are doing rather than recreating it.
Great. Thanks, Sandy. All right.
Thanks, Sandy. I'll connect you with Judy to follow up more on that.
And we are working on our internal work plans for this coming year, where much more will be specified. But we can give you some updates on what we've accomplished this year and the coordination that we're doing with other agencies in the region.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right. Well, I don't see any other hands or questions. So at this time, I think last time what we did was we took 2 votes. One was to waive a vote to recommend that the MPO waive the comment period for this, and then another one recommending that the MPO endorse the actual amendment as presented. So we can do that again this time if folks are interested. Josh?
Yeah, move to recommend waiving, unless you want the recommending to approval first, that probably makes sense. I'll do that.
All right, I think we could. I think last time we did waive the comment period and then approval. I think that's good.
Well, we need a subcommittee for this. Waive the comment period.
And we just do it all in one big vote, right? Because it's clear they're both going to go through. So just recommend that
We
we
can-
waive.
The subcommittee's reporting out that we do a consolidated vote.
All right,
Thank you.
we'll do a consolidated. Okay, so Josh, the motion is to both waive the comment period and approve the changes. Is that right?
That is my motion, seconded by Len.
Excellent. Okay. So motion having been made and seconded to both waive this comment period and endorse the changes. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, I will read the roll. OTP votes yes. Eric Barassa,
MAPC, yes.
Josh Tostoff,
Ostrov, yes.
Tom O'Rourke,
Tom O'Rourke, yes.
Tom Bent,
Tom Bent, yes.
Leonard Diggins,
Higgins, yes.
and Amira Patterson.
Amira Patterson, yes.
All right, great. So thanks everyone. So we'll be presenting that tomorrow at the MPO meeting and make that clear that that's the recommendation. So appreciate that. We'll move on to our next item, which is members items. Are there any items that members have they'd like to share today? I see a hand from Dan. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. My unmute didn't like me. I'm trying to find out a little bit more information about the Cambridge Street Bridge, rail bridge crossing. I was under the impression that there are some funds that are now available. Is that moving forward?
Which rail bridge?
This is the one over Cambridge Street in Boston / Charlestown. An
Oh,
MBTA bridge.
yeah, that's one of the projects on, Derek, I think that's on there's two Cambridge Street projects, I think. There's one that is a MBTA project. And then there's Cambridge Street, the street, which is on Arctech.
Right. Yeah, there is, yeah, you're correct, Eric. There's a TIP project for the MassDOT Highway Division to work on that. But there's, yeah, potentially another. Is that, were you thinking about the MBTA bridge though, Dan? Or?
Yeah, I was. Specifically, that bridge is rotted away and needs replacing. That goes across the rails. What's the other element? I didn't know there's a second one.
So there's a MassDOT bridge project on Cambridge Street. And I believe it's in one of the out years of the 5-year transportation improvement program budget. We can certainly get more details on that and send around to folks. I don't have that right at my fingertips, but
That's okay.
Follow
I
up.
didn't
Yeah,
expect.
yeah.
Sandy, do you have the MBTA CIP link?
I am looking at it. I don't see a Cambridge Street project in there, but I will put the link in the chat so other folks can look at it.
Yeah, there are
just
4
from a quick
bridges.
Scan.
Yeah, there are 4 bridges that were built about the same time. We have 2 that are already slated in the budget. That is Martha as well as Mystic Ave. And then there was part of the Green Line extension, a bridge over there in the Somerville side of Cambridge Street, which is actually called Washington Street on their side.
Okay. All right. Well, we can certainly follow up on that, Dan, and let you know what we can find. Yeah.
So Dan, the link that Sandy just put in the chat has all the MBTA capital projects. So I thought there was a one of the MBTA bridges, but I don't. If it's not in there, then that would be good public comment for the next time they're doing the CIP, which will be next year.
Oh, it's going to be next year. Okay.
It's a rolling
Yeah,
capital plan, you know.
Yeah, I follow. It's just we have some other transit needs there, and I just want to be sure that we don't lose them. Basically, we need an underpass that's parallel with the rails to get people across the street space, because we got a huge, actually 3 developments that are taking place there, and the traffic load is too severe during the rush periods to let people walk across at the crosswalks without, you know, being hit, basically. So the idea was to open up a new pathway while we're doing the bridge. It wouldn't be in the bridge space per se. It would be basically on the abutment of the bridge on the soil side, if you get my drift. So we kill 2 birds, 1 stone.
Got it. Okay. Thanks, Dan. Steve Olenoff.
Yeah, there was a Martha Way project that's right next to it. Maybe that's what he's referring to.
No, this is different. Yeah, I know about Malfa and Mystic. I was involved in both of those earlier on, and those are slated for this coming year.
Right.
But I mean, is Boston on here?
No.
Because that Roland Street project is doing a bunch of pedestrian improvements to the bridge too. That's something.
Yes, there is, because we need to get it's complicated. We need transit by foot or by bicycle across Cambridge Street from the Roland Street side of Cambridge over to the other side, because there's a project of theirs on that side as well as an isolated community space. We call it the Lost Village, to get into the rest of Charlestown. They've been locked in for years, and a couple of people have been hurt crossing the streets there. So that's why this is a concern. And there's also another development which is technically on D Street. They call it Cambridge Street, but it's actually a D Street address, which is that little strange L space. And that's also, there's an element there that we're trying to work with the MBTA of making a pathway from not the bridge space itself, but along the foundation of the bridge space on the other side to get people down to the lower level of D Street so they can bypass the crossover of the 93 off-ramp there, which likewise is heavily loaded with traffic, and there's a very high accident count there for cars and trucks, let alone pedestrians and bicyclists. So it's another area of concern, but I'm not trying to deal with that today. My real one is, the first one is trying to get the Somerville side of Cambridge Street worked on first, and then the Boston / Charlestown side would come later. Ideally, I'd like to get it all done at once, but I know how things are. You know, we go at a snail's pace here. So if we can get that done, so that we can get people across, and then the other element that's over there is from Roland Street along the rail up to the streetscape through that little triangular piece of land that's right along the rails. So there's a couple of elements there all tied together. It's not easily to see in when you try to describe it. It's better if you saw it in a diagram.
Got it. Okay. Thanks, Dan. Are there hands up addressing this? Josh and Leonard, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah. So go ahead, Josh.
No, this is unrelated. Yeah, on member items.
Sure.
You know, I just want to comment that I believe it was last year the UPWP approved the congestion management process committee's work, for which I had been one of the intrepid advocates in a previous advocacy role. And I don't normally attend these meetings because David Kosis, my colleague, normally does. But while I'm here, I just want to commend that process. I have not been attending meetings, but just reading some of the notes. And in particular, I know they've got an agenda posted for tomorrow, but the lessons learned, what they're taking away from the experience of other communities is very promising. It seems paradoxical that something that's kind of innovative to respond to the market is moving at the speed of government, and I don't mean that in a good way, but it's progress. Better slow than no is one of my mottos. So Eric, I know you've been part of that effort as well, along with a mutual friend, and good to see it moving forward. Maybe we'll do something in Massachusetts, and maybe New Jersey will not successfully sue New York. lot of maybes there. Anyway, that's my member item.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, it's been interesting to follow.
Yeah.
Len.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to Dan, or to what Dan brought up, or the whole fact that Dan spoke as he did. I think these were more tip-related items. And so this wasn't really the meeting for this. And also, open meeting law really just precludes us from having any really meaningful deliberation on something that's not on the agenda. So we can answer questions, but we can't really even give a hint that we're trying to make decisions about what projects we need to pursue or whatever. All right, thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Len.
Sorry.
Oh, no. That's okay. Yep. No worries. We're all here to, help support or answer questions like Len said. So, feel free to always attend. And yeah, Stella Jordan just put her email address in the chat, so feel free to follow up there as well. All right. We'll move on to the next item, which is next meeting. I know it's kind of to be determined. Srileka, did you want to say anything about when we might come back together?
As of now, I don't have any more items to bring forward to the committee. Over the next few months, we may be working on another amendment, but I'm hoping that won't sort of come forward until October. So if there's anything else, we'll keep you updated.
Great. Sounds good. All right. Well, with that, I'll ask for a motion and second to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Mira?
And I will second that motion.
All right. I think without objection, we're adjourned. So thank you, everyone, and we'll be in touch when we meet next. So see you tomorrow at the MPO.
Take care. See you tomorrow.
Bye, folks.
Okay.
Bye.